All right, so if you have aches and pains or just discomfort in your feet, ankles, knees, and hips, try this workout. Let's do it. All right, so this workout is something that I've been doing to prepare myself to ruck 100 miles. Now, why am I rucking 100 miles? I'm raising funds for our military veterans through Team RWB. So in preparation for that, I have to make sure that my feet, my knees, my ankles, and my hips are all structurally sound. So I'm gonna start off with the feet, and then I'm gonna work up the kinetic chain. First thing we're gonna do is just roll it out. Now, if you don't have a lacrosse ball, I have a roller here. All I'm gonna do is just put it on the floor, and I'm just gonna roll out the bottom, the soles of my feet. Now, what this is gonna do is it's gonna help with the fascia. It's gonna break up any tight tissue, and it's gonna allow my feet to splay out and move efficiently. So typically I'll do, about 20 repetitions here, and I'm gonna go ahead and break it all down for you on the whiteboard, so just stay tuned for the rest of the video so that you can see the full breakdown. But all I'm doing here is just rolling out the bottoms of my feet, nice and easy. So typically I like to freeze a lacrosse ball and then use that cold and just roll out my feet, especially in the morning too as well when I'm going on my morning rucks. Yeah, so check the tan lines, it is what it is. I've been rucking outside and I keep my socks on, believe it or not, for the ruck, but I need to show you guys how to actually lift the arch. So this is called short foot, and all I'm doing here is I'm gonna take my foot and I'm going to screw my foot into the ground and then lift the arch. So I'm strengthening up the bottoms of my feet, letting it relax, and then driving supination and lifting my arch as high as I can. Then I'm gonna relax, lift again. Like I said, don't mind the tan lines, man. Don't come in the comments and don't do that, all right? Let's be professional here. Also, what I wanna do is I wanna splay out my toes. So I'm gonna go ahead, get my toes nice and wide, right? Create a larger surface area. And then I'm gonna just grab and externally rotate and lift up the arch. Another thing that you can do is you can use a towel and do towel crunches or curls. Typically you would do like 10 reps, splay out the towel. You have to do it on a hardwood surface or something that'll help the towel or cloth slide. Or you can use marble pickups with your toes. That's also gonna help strengthen up the bottoms of the feet. A lot of times people's toes get crunched up and overlap because they're using narrow toe box shoes, which causes havoc on the actual foot. So using something like a Vivo barefoot shoe or something that has a wider toe box to allow for your toes to splay out is gonna be beneficial in the long run for just general foot health. All right, so if you don't have something like this with a wide toe box, minimalistic, where you can feel the ground, just do it barefoot. The goal is to feel the ground as you're doing these movements. So now we're gonna move up to the ankles, which is where I'm gonna actually improve ankle range of motion, and then I'm gonna work the muscles that surround the ankle, right? Even with the calves and the tibialis anterior, we're gonna work through motion to get prepared for that. So first thing I'm gonna do, if you guys have seen any of the videos before, I'm gonna do a basic heel toe walk. This is my support system prep. I got this one from Pete Bomarito. So this is going to help you not only for any type of movement drills, but also if you're gonna go in and do plyometric drills or running drills. These are good for athletes, getting them prepared to do higher dynamic movements. So first one I'm gonna do is a heel toe walk. So I'm gonna go ahead, drive my toes to the top of the shoe, get in full dorsiflexion, and then work my way into plantar flexion. So here, toes to the top of the shoe, drive up, heel off the ground. All right, so the next one, we're gonna work into dorsiflexion. I'm gonna maintain my toes to the top of the shoe, and I'm walking only on my heels. I'm gonna get a slight knee bend and just keep the toes off the ground. So heels are staying on, toes are up, and I'm maintaining this dorsiflexion as I go to walk forward. All right, you do it right, you'll feel those muscles in your shin turn on and activate. All right, so now we're gonna go from the heel walk to the toe walk, and all I'm doing here is I'm driving the balls of my feet into the ground, and I'm really gonna press down on the ball of my big toe. So heels are up, I'm gonna maintain that high heel, and I'm just walking forward, right? You can slightly bend the knees, but we're working on posterior tib and gastroc, all the muscles in the calves here. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the single leg, slow eccentric ankle rocker. And all you're gonna do is find a bumper plate or something that you can prop your leg up on or your foot up on. Half of my foot's gonna be off of the platform or off of the bumper plate. And I'm gonna go into the single leg stance. Now, obviously you wanna have something to hold your balance. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna actively drive into dorsiflexion. So I'm gonna pull the toes up to my shins or up to the top of the shoe. and then I'm gonna drive my knee over my toes. So I'm actually gonna lunge down in this low knee bent position. And then when I get to the end range, I'm gonna drive the ball of my foot into the platform and then go into that plantar flexion. So I'm pulling the toes to the top of the shoe, knee goes over the toes, and then I'm gonna drive all the way through and get full extension in the ankle. Flexion, nice and slow, 5-second eccentric, get to the end range, and then drive through and work the calf. So I'm pulling and then pushing. Look at them calves. Look at them calves. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so now we're gonna work the tibia, right? We're gonna work the tibialis anterior. So now all I'm doing is I'm loading the foot, and I'm gonna pull into dorsiflexion. So take the kettlebell, put it on the foot here, and I'm gonna go all the way off the bench, just about, right about the lower calf. So like in your soleus area, just so you have enough room to fully plantar flex and then dorsiflex. So here, full range of motion, then pull the toe up. Very simple movement. If you don't have a kettlebell, you can use a band or you can use a cable.
How many sets and reps do we do this? Well, watch the full video.
Should put that on there. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the knees. And all I'm gonna do here is a terminal knee extension. So I'm gonna take a band, I'm gonna tie it to a rack, right? And then from there, I'm just gonna loop it around to the back of my knee. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and get a staggered stance. So the band side is gonna be back, slightly back from the front foot. And all I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna drive my knee over the toe, and then I'm gonna fully extend my hips and my knees. There's several ways you can do it. I like this way. Another way you could do it is just raise the heel and drive the heel into the ground. But I also want to work on gaining more range of motion in my ankle, so there's a two-part here. So I'm gonna drive, keeping my heels down, and then I'm gonna extend the hips and the knees. All we're doing here is working the muscles that cross or that surround the knee joint. Really the vastus medialis or the VMO. And we're also working on full knee flexion, or as much knee flexion as possible, while keeping the heel down. So you are gonna work a little bit more ankle range of motion while you're doing it too as well. With the terminal knee extension, you're primarily working the quadricep muscles. For the valve slide, now we're gonna be working the hamstring. So we're working the muscles that are on the back side of the posterior chain. And all you're gonna do is take a furniture slider, right? Or if you have a hardwood floor or something that is a slidable surface, you can use a towel or a rag or something like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put myself in this hip bridge position here. I'm gonna slightly flex this knee, and then I'm gonna drive my leg into full knee extension and hip extension. Drop down, pull it back in. So it's more of an eccentric loading. As I come down, I'm gonna control the eccentric and then drop it back. To progress this, you can go into concentric action. So I'm here, drive all the way out, hold, pull it back in. All the way out, hold, pull it back in. All right, so now we're gonna move our way into the hips. Now, when I look at the hips, that is your suspension system, right? It helps you absorb and redirect force. Where the feet and the ankles are more your support system, your hips are your suspension system. So what we're gonna work on is internal and external rotation of the hip, flexion and extension, abduction and adduction. First one we're gonna do is a hip airplane. That's gonna help you with internal and external rotation of the hip. So you can use a rack, a wall, or if you have the stability and you have the balance, you can do it without that. But in the beginning, start off with having some stability built in, right? So you can use that for balance. So first thing I'm gonna do, my foot that's down, I'm gonna create that short foot, meaning I'm gonna lift the arch, just like we did in the short foot exercise. So I'm gonna create that arch, get some external rotation here. I'm maintaining that knee position, all right? I'm gonna kick this leg back and squeeze my glute. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up. So I'm gonna open up the back side, leg, open up the hip, and as I'm doing that, I'm gonna maintain this knee position. What you don't wanna do is let the knee valgus or push in. So I'm gonna still keep that external torque, keep the arch, and then open up my body. So now I have external rotation here and here, open and closed chain. So I'm opening up, hold position, squeeze the glute med, and then bringing it back in, I'm gonna squeeze my adductors, my inner thighs, and hold this position. Now you should feel the load on the opposite hip, maintaining your balance. I'm gonna hold this here, I'm gonna open up again. Big range, pull it back down, close the angle. All right, so we went internal, external rotation. Now we're gonna go into hip extension. So basic single leg glute bridge. I'm gonna go 1 foot down. I'm gonna take my hands, interlock them behind the knee. Head is down, eyes are up. I'm gonna drive into hip extension, hold that position, right? So now I want full hip extension as far as I can, and then from there I'm just gonna come back down, controlled on the eccentric. Drive back up. Key points here is you wanna make sure your knee stays in line with your hip. You don't want your knee to kick out too far. So I'm gonna get up as high as I can without my knee driving out to the side. When you do this, you wanna keep 3 points of contact on the down foot. So I'm keeping the ball of my big toe outside of my ball of my foot, and then my full heel on the ground. Driving all the way up, hip as high as you can without compensation. All right, so we went into hip extension. Now we're gonna maintain that hip extension and go abduction and adduction. So now we're working on driving the leg out to the side and then pulling it back into midline, all right? So there's a couple of things that are working here. One, you're gonna have to stabilize the trunk and the hips. So your obliques are gonna be turned on. You're gonna actually have to contract those. And you're also gonna have to maintain that knee position as you go to abduct out. So I'll show you what I mean. Same position here. Now all I'm doing is I'm extending the leg. So now I'm in hip flexion, right? Driving hip flexion with dorsiflexion on the ankle. You'll feel a stretch on the hamstring. Hip is high, and I'm going out to the side, maintaining that tightness in my quad here. I'm squeezing my quads, straightening out the leg, holding position without dropping down, and then I'm gonna pull it back in. All right, so we did hip extension, abduction, internal rotation, external rotation. Now we're gonna go into hip flexion. So I'm gonna take a mini band or a monster mini band, tie it up to the rack, and then I'm just gonna figure eight it. So I'm gonna go up and around. Make sure it's nice and tight on the foot, right? I'm gonna maintain dorsiflexion, and then I'm gonna drive into hip extension on this one, right? Just to maintain position. And then I'm gonna drive my knee into my chest. So now I have dorsiflexion and then hip flexion. So I'm here, drive, hold, and back out. You don't necessarily have to get your butt off the ground. If you can regress it if you need to, and then it would just look like this. Or you can go here. Okay. All right, so once we activated the muscles, increased the range of motion, now we're gonna work on increasing tendon stiffness or elasticity, and we're really protecting the soft tissue. So what we're gonna do is what's called low-level plyometrics. So it's gonna be quick off the ground, fast amortization phase, meaning I hit the ground and I redirect force fast. So hands on the hips, and all I'm doing is I'm gonna hit the ground, pop up, drive the toe to the top of the shoe, and land mid-foot. Hands on the hips, and we're up, attacking the ground. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the ankles, knees, and hips, where I'm just gonna get into a split stance position. I'm gonna drop down low. So I'm here, switch, switch, switch. All right, so the last one is just a simple sled walk. So I'm gonna backpedal with this. You can use a rope, you can use a blast strap, or you can use a TRX. Now, with a TRX, obviously you're gonna have to hold it, so you're gonna hit a little bit of upper back too as well. This isn't really heavy. The goal here is just to get range of motion and to activate the muscles, right? So this is something that you would do, this whole workout would be something that is restorative, right? So it's to build restoration, to enhance recoverability, and to keep you safe. So again, it's not about load, it's just about getting the work done, maintaining your range of motion, and working efficiently. So I'm gonna go ball of the foot to the heel, keeping the knees over the toe. When I go to sit back, I'm sitting back into my hips, keeping a good posture. And I'm gonna work this for about 10 minutes. All right, so as promised, we're gonna go over the entire workout. So starting off with the foot, we're gonna do 2 exercises. You're gonna roll out, right? So we're gonna do some myofascial release. You're gonna do about 20 repetitions up and back. Now you can use a lacrosse ball, you can use that roller. Like I said, if you want to freeze a lacrosse ball, that will help too as well. Then after that, you're gonna go into short foot exercises. So you're gonna do 2 sets of 10 repetitions each. You're going to maintain that isometric contraction where your foot is raised, right? You're creating that arch for a good 5 to 10 seconds. So this is a little bit longer of a set, but again, you're working on increasing that foot strength, the bottom of the foot. Now, after that, you're gonna roll into the ankle. So we're going up the kinetic chain. We're gonna do 4 exercises here. You're gonna go into your heel walks, right? You're gonna do 2 sets of 10 yards. Then you go to your toe walks, 2 sets of 10 yards again. Single leg controlled ankle rockers like we did over here. 2 sets of 10. Remember, you're gonna do a slow eccentric. So 3 to 5 second on the eccentric, roughly isometric contraction at the end for about 1 to 2 seconds, and then explode up. Again, you're doing 10 reps each side. Then do some tib raises. Again, you could use a kettlebell, you can use a band, you can use a cable. Do 2 sets of 10 repetitions on each side. This isn't supposed to be maximally hard, right? You want it to be comfortably hard. You want to leave about 3 reps in the tank, maybe even 4. So it's not as intense from an RIR perspective or from an RPE perspective. You still want to get range of motion and you want to activate the muscles. Moving on to the knees, you're going to do 2 exercises. We're going to do those terminal knee extensions with the band, 2 sets of 10 repetitions. Make sure you get full hip extension with the knee extension. Moving to the valve slides, you're gonna do that single leg valve slide curls using the hamstring. 2 sets of 5. Work on getting full range of motion with your hips extended. Drop back down, pull it in on the concentric action. Moving on to the hips, right? Your suspension system. We got 4 exercises there. We're gonna go into those hip airplanes. Typically, you wanna make sure that you still have some good balance. So use a rack if you need to, or a wall. And if you can progress it, then use it without it, right? So you're gonna do 2 sets of 5 repetitions. And I want you to maintain isometric contraction in external rotation and in internal rotation for about 5 seconds, right? So it's a slow, controlled movement, isometric at the top, isometric at the bottom, 5 each. Then you move on to your single leg glute bridge. So we're working hip extension now, and you're gonna go 2 sets of 5 repetitions each. Again, hard isometric contraction at the top, 2, 3, maybe even 5 seconds. Hold it at the top and solidify your position. After that, you're gonna go single leg glute bridge leg whip, where we're gonna go out to the side and bring it back in. This is nice and slow and controlled. Maintain hip position, don't let your hips drop, and try not to bring your leg too far forward. Try to kick it back as much as you can, still getting a stretch in the hamstring, and you're gonna do 2 sets of 5 there too as well. Moving for your hip flexors, we're gonna go banded hip flexor. You're gonna do 2 sets of 5. I like to make sure that I'm getting full range of motion in hip extension as well. So you got hip extension, and then you're gonna drive that knee into the chest for hip flexors. If you cannot do that, drop down and just work the hip flexors. Again, 2 sets of 5. Then we're moving on to our dynamic work, where you're gonna do some low-level plyometrics. You could do pogo jumps, skips, bounds, anything there, but do 2 sets of 10 seconds total. You wanna do your ankles, so you wanna focus on maybe some pogo jumps or some skips, and then work the ankles, knees, and hips. So you're gonna do that split squat jump, right? And switching the feet in midair to just enhance athleticism. After that, sled push and pull. You can go push down, pull back, or just go all backwards. Either way, you wanna do 10 minutes total. If you wanna find your 1 rep max on that, you would basically take a distance. So for my distance is about 50 feet. You're gonna go to a max. Now this is something you would do not on this day, but find your 1 rep max. So you're gonna add weight until you cannot go longer than 50 feet with that weight. Take that down to about 40 to 60%, and that's what you're gonna use for your 10 minutes on the sled push. What's up guys, Daru here. Make sure you like this video and subscribe for more. See you on the next one.